And
What
gradual.
about Big Daddy's? Do you remember when that
I
went
remember
in?
Big
And you got some
Daddy's.
stories about Big Daddy's?
Oh, I remember the hamburgers were so good. And I remember going there with, in fact, he was a boyfriend at that time. But I remember going there, and it was a gathering spot for us, you know, in our teens, and, you know, just, so it was really a hot spot.
You wanted to tell me about Bobby Unser.
Oh, well, he worked for my dad. Here's the...
In what era? What dates? What?
Ooh, I'm not sure I could give you that. I don't know when Bobby Unser was winning all those races. I'm not sure about that, when that was. But it's now, you know, the new fire station. Okay, if you're standing in front of the new fire station, looking toward the hills, that property right across, where it has like an empty lot area, and then there's the building in the back. We still own that. We call it the body shop because it was a body shop. And so Bobby Unser's dad used to work there for my dad. So, you know, it was right across the street. It was close by. And my dad was always proud of that. He knew him. So his dad became a fireman in Castro Valley, fire chief. And they were celebrating that, and so he was being honored. And so my dad found out that Bobby Unser was going to be there. So he thought, oh, geez, I'd like to go, you know. So Serge, my husband, went with my dad, and sure enough, they met Bobby Unser. And then my dad said, oh, your dad, he had already passed on, your dad used to work for me in Fremont. And Bobby Unser had no idea. He didn't know that portion of his dad's life. He didn't know
really?
about. Yeah, it was really interesting.
So Bobby Unser is a race driver?
He's a famous car race driver. Yeah, I must admit I don't know that much about him, but I do. People, if you say the name, most people recognize it.
Right.
And it was just a connection that my dad was always kind of happy about. And I always felt safe here. I was always happy here. You think about the town. People were always friendly. It was, I mean, I guess I keep thinking about today, and maybe I shouldn't do that, you know, to compare. But, oh my gosh, you never have to lock your door or anything, you know. I remember at 4 years old being on the stage at Niles School, wearing my red velvet dress, because my mother would read to me, 'twas the night before Christmas, every night, and she read it so much that I had memorized it. And so Mr. Bristow, that was the principal, that he wanted me to say it, and so I did recite that. I remember that red velvet dress. My sister and I would go to the agency there, American Garage, sometimes, and there was this big cash register. I remember, I wish we had it to donate to you. I just think that was an amazing cash register.
Yeah, that would be
huge,
wonderful.
you know. But when they moved to Centerville, we did work over there in the office a little bit, my sister and I, just part-time while we were going to college. My dad, he taught us a lot of lessons at home, you know, about the value of the dollar and things like that. And we were always very proud. In fact, when they had their opening there, or they'd have a celebration there, we would go and you know, dress up and help with food and distributing things. And what was fun was, I think it was my dad's 75th birthday. We celebrated there in the showroom, and two of my dear friends, who are still here at Niles, Linda Alt and Diane Lush, we did the entertainment part, one part of it, where we became the Supremes and acted out and danced and everything. It was so much fun. But I worked at the Pacific State Steel Mill in the office in the summers, I think, and of course when there was Capwell's, which is now Washington West.
Right.
I worked there part-time, you know, when going to school. So I didn't work too much with the car business, but we would be there a lot. You know, we'd go over, and if you want to come with me, you know, we'd go. I went to college, became a teacher, and, you know, did my own thing.
And you did your teaching at Hayward High?
Hayward High School for 8 years, and then we married, and then we have 3 children. Our oldest is Mario, and then he's going to be turning 40. I can't believe it. And then Serena, who lives in the house that I grew up in, and then Aldo, who's now a lawyer, and he's in Vallejo temporarily, I hope. He has 3 children with 1 on the way.
Okay.
And Mario has 1 with 1 on the way, and Serena has 2. So all of a sudden, our grandchildren are just
Amazing.
amazing,
Yeah.
But at the end of 2nd Street, that red wood house there is where Lorelei, her maiden name, Estudillo, lives. So she's living in the house that she grew up in. Lorelei was always over at our house. And her dad was the fire chief. Thomas Estudillo was the fire chief.
Yeah, she's got
Okay.
Lorelei's got a great memory.
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
Lorelei would be
Yeah.
so much fun. She is so much fun. So we did a lot with her too. Oh, she'd be over all the time. Oh my goodness. Her and Carol Quartaroli, Angie Quartaroli lived kind of almost kitty corner from Lorelei, and they were always over at the house. And Carol lives, I think, I don't know if she's in Black Hawk or Alamo or Danville. Maybe it's Danville. So she's not too far. But Lorelei's there. And Harriet, one of my best friends from kindergarten, Harriet Brown, her daughter is living in the house that Harriet grew up in, which is right across the
Wow.
street from Niles School. Because Lucille Brown, her mother, was the secretary at Niles School.
Oh,
So
okay.
Harriet's daughter lives in her house, yeah.
Did you belong to any Girl Scout?
Oh, the Girl Scouts, yes. It was a Niles troop, and I remember going through all the badges and all, and my sister as well. Winnie Enos, who was a teacher at Niles School, she was our choir director at the church. I don't think Winnie was involved in the Girl Scouts. After having the 3 children, I started to sub in Fremont, and I've always had music in my heart. And so I started a nonprofit, and it's called Music for Minors 2, because there's a 1 across the bay. And it's designed to keep music in the schools, because I teach adults how to teach music to children, and then they volunteer and go into school as a music docent. And that's has kept it alive in Fremont and Newark, and we're also in Castro Valley. But I think that, and I do play my piano. I still have, when that spinet was destroyed by the flood in 1955, I still begged my dad for a piano, and he bought me a baby grand. And it's an Aldrich. It's not, the top of the line, but I still have that piano in my house, and I just recently had it, had the strings changed and all, and so I do enjoy playing it still.
So when you taught, it must have been music. Your major was music?
No, it was French.
Oh.
French and English, and I taught French and English at the high school, because
Okay.
I knew music, you wouldn't get a job. At the time, I thought, and they said, no, you better do a language, language you'll. And so Hayward was my first school. I interviewed there and got that. But I just have always wanted to do something with music. So
when did you start Music for Minors too?
1988 at Niles School.
At Niles
At
School was your
Niles School.
first?
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Right
So
around.
it's,
and where is it now as far as?
It's in about 11 schools in Fremont, all of the elementary schools in Newark, and most of the elementary schools in Castro Valley. Then there's these extended daycare centers. I've taught the teachers, so that when the kids come to them before school and after school, they do the music with them. And so we're in about 6 or 8 of those, I think. And thanks to Winstead Construction in Niles, and also in Newark, Hulbert Lumber, a Niles School stage, if you go up in there, that auditorium is amazing. We have this huge resource center built there. It's all cabinets, and it's filled with instruments and puppets and CDs, so that the volunteers can check things out and use them in the school. But if it wasn't for the support, really, in Niles, it wouldn't have taken off.
So music, just real quickly, and then we'll wrap up. So Music for Minors, they teach instrumental music, or?
Actually, it's a variety of things. Singing, for sure. Signing while we sing. rhythmic movement and dance, and the instrument exposure, because we focus on the elementary level, and usually it's more the primary, but we can take it all the way through 6th grade. Simple instruments first, like the drums, the tambourines, the maracas, and so forth. But then we have handbells, where they're learning the pitches and the chords, recorders. We have keyboards. They're little keyboards like this, and depending on the volunteers' comfort level, they can do some keyboarding. So it's not band instruments, but the recorder leads them right into the clarinet, and of course drums they can use. It's exposing them to music so that they'll love it and then want to continue, with it. But we have started a choir. We have a Music from Artist to Kids choir now.
Cool.
They just performed at Niles School Friday night. I would say that we have been really blessed here. I mean, Niles is so special. Everybody says, oh, yeah, everybody says that about their little town. This town has, I don't know whether it was the fact that we had the movies here that makes it also unique, but people make a town. They do. It's the people. And there have been just amazing people here, and I think there still are, the young ones coming in. But I think it's so important to pass it on. Like, what you're doing is so important, and getting publicity on it and getting people here, so that the younger generation knows how important history is, and Niles is so rich with it that, it should really be promoted, I think. And
Did you have Italian gatherings?
we were always a part of the Italian club here, Italian Catholic Federation, and then over in Newark, at the Newark Pavilion, it was called Sons of Italy. And that gathering, oh yeah, we would go to that regularly. And they had big dinners, and these Italian women would cook. Like, you can't believe the raviolis were out of this world, and I remember that, and there'd be dancing afterward. So yeah, there would be these gatherings at the church or in the community. They weren't that often, but they were definitely annual, or maybe twice a year. And then my grandmother always spoke Italian around us. She always wanted my mom and dad to speak Italian. They didn't speak it that much around us. They were more, but I can understand it thanks to her, I think.
So your parents, your dad grew up speaking Italian also?
Yeah, he could speak Italian, and English, of course.
All right.
And Aunt Teresa could. My aunt, Uncle Caesar, I don't think as well as I think when he was 9 years younger than my dad, maybe not as much, but he understood things. Arlene, I know, understands. Arlene maybe can speak to a little bit. I don't know the grammar, and I wish I would have. I still could, I guess. Love that language. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
you.
You've told me lots of great stories.
I'm glad.
All
I'm
right.
glad.